Welcome to Focus on Business, a podcast show for photographers with me, your host, Jane Goodrich. I'm talking to successful photographers so you can learn from our experiences and have the business of your dreams. So join us and let's focus on business. Okay, so today on the show, I'm really excited because we have one of my very good friends who is an amazing photographer, Stefanie Murphy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Stefanie is based in New York. Sometimes we talk about niching down, but she's been able to do weddings, events, newborns, families, and just had such a successful career so far. Anyway, welcome to the show and tell us about yourself. Tell our audience about you.
Thank you for having me.
What's your name and where'd you come from? I'm just kidding.
My name is Stefanie Murphy, as Jane said. My studio is in Rockland County, New York. So I'm kind of in the Hudson Valley. But with that, we're really close to Bergen County, New Jersey. So like you said, I get around a little bit in the area. I do specialize in portraits. And with that, I also get some family events. And like you said, I do not want to niche down. I actually more am niche on the type of client, if that makes sense. So those mothers that are coming to me every single year, whatever they have going on in their life is kind of what I want to focus on.
So why photography?
It just happened. And I feel like that happens for a lot of people. But I think when I was younger, it was just kind of my way of documenting life, which I was so into at such a young age. I was always running around with just a little Easy Snap Kodak film camera and then just begging my parents to bring it to CBS for me, Costco for me, whichever it was at that time.
And now you want to vomit with those. I'm just kidding. I'm
so happy that I was always a very sentimental person. I always wanted to document things. And I think the camera was just the way that I did that, you know? And I still have boxes of these because I made scrapbooks. It was I was writing down where the picture was taken, how I took it, what was going on, were we celebrating something that day? They're so funny to look back at, but most people's heads were cut off, obviously. It's not my best work. Obviously, I've come very far. But after I grew up and you're in high school and people are asking you what you want to do and there's all that pressure, especially back when I was in high school, I feel like now there's more room for people to be inspired to work for themselves and go after their dreams that might be a non-conventional 9-to-5. But back then it was very, you're going to be a starving artist for the rest of your life if you want to do photography. That's all fun and games, but that's going to be your life. And I was terrified of that happening. So I did not want to do that. But I would still photograph people on the weekends throughout college. And I went to school for marketing because I figured it kind of went hand in hand because photography was really my only big interest at that point. So I basically built my business while I was in college like that. And then out of college, I felt I needed to do the smart thing and take a 9-to-5 job in the marketing field, which I did love as well. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I stuck with that. But the photography just kept coming back and back and back. So I finally just sat down, did the numbers. I'm almost making my starting salary because it wasn't much back then. And let me just go for it. So,
well, that's awesome. Having a background in marketing, do you feel has helped your business?
Absolutely. Although I will say, especially because of how social media dominant it seems right now, everything changes week by week, let alone month by month, year by year. So my last formal training in marketing was probably about 2014. So it's a little outdated at this point, but it's given me, I have that brain. That brain sticks with you. So I can adapt.
I think that when people are starting out and I'm going to do a degree, something in business, if you're going to start a photography business, helps. It's not necessarily going to replace the on-the-job knowledge because things change. You're right. I was in marketing too, but I started full-time 2010. Nothing. I mean, basically, it was Facebook page and that was it. So 10 years then this year. Wow. Yeah. So if you were to travel back to Stefanie in 2014, would you do anything different or tell yourself to do something different?
Absolutely. And I feel like this is one of the topics that come up a lot, which makes me feel not alone in this, but it would definitely be pricing. Because, and I don't just say that because I needed to make more money or anything like that. It's actually because from the second I started this business, the client was always the forefront of my mind and that experience that I was giving and the connection I was making with them. And so looking at it back from that standpoint, there's clients that I would work with for the first few years of my career when my sessions were so incredibly priced low that I was basically paying them to work. Obviously, now we realize that, but it hurt when they didn't come back. It hurt. And it wasn't like from, the standpoint of wanting them to still pay me for sessions. It hurt because I was watching their kids grow up for 3-4 years and then finally realized this was not sustainable at this rate, raise the prices, and they're looking at you like, I thought we had something,
And then you're like, I thought we had something, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, yeah, it's like,
I'm doing this for us. And a lot of the times, and I mean, still when I raise my prices now, I say, if I don't do this, you're going to have to find another photographer down the line.
Yeah.
So I feel like every time you change your prices, that drastic amount from going from what you're comfortable asking people to, oh, wow, my bills are actually like needing this from people. You have this huge client turnover. You're lucky if you keep any of them, but you really do. At least half of your clients, they're going to leave because they're
half. You're lucky to keep 10%, I would say.
Right. So putting myself through that, and more than once, because, at first it took me a while to learn it. And I'm sure it takes a lot of people to learn it. And I also didn't have anyone. I didn't even have a business owner in my life that I could talk to at that point. So I went in not knowing, literally not knowing anything. And any adult I went to was pretty much giving me that. Are you sure you're going to do this? Because, my son is doing this and he's going to a trade school and this is how much he is making out of his certifications or trainings. If I didn't have to put myself through that so many times, it would have been great. And it might have taken obviously longer for me to build that client base. But once I found them and I found my people, I would have been able to keep them longer.
Yeah, I think the same amount of effort goes into finding clients that pay you versus clients that don't, to be honest.
Absolutely. I think you don't get to keep them for as long.
Yeah. And if you're doing a family business, I'm a newborn and family photographer too. It's the hard slog at first to get those clients. And then they come back every year. They come back for events. I don't do events, but I refer Stefanie to events. But it's such a less thing. So you have to kind of, in my mind, just start off right because you're going to keep them if you're priced correctly. You can't raise your prices, I think, every year based on inflation, especially now. And that's not going to cause such a price shift versus going from really unprofitable where the clients are paying you to barely breaking even to then going, all right, I actually want to make at least minimum wage on this business.
Absolutely. Because those big price jumps that you have to make in the beginning when you start out, like I started out, they're way more than just the inflation rate.
Right. Yeah. And also one of the things that I think, and I don't know, I was going to ask you this question, have I asked anybody else? Do you think pricing for you, do you think it's based on, because I see this a lot, well, I wouldn't pay that. I would only pay XYZ. Or is it just something that you came up with? How did you come up with your initial prices?
My initial prices, like way back when?
Yes.
Ooh, I feel like this sounds good. And I also think I was in that mentality where, okay, I'm shooting for 30 minutes. You're not thinking about all the other time that you're spending. Oh, I don't mind talking to them. I don't mind doing the back end. I like editing. I don't need to charge for that. I just need to charge for the time that I'm going to be with the client and like just make sure that I have a little extra in case my camera breaks kind of thing. If I was even considering that early on.
I don't think any of us did.
I also think since I started at such a young age, it's like those bigger numbers don't look real to you. I've seen some of my flyers show up on my Facebook from years and years and years ago. And if we want to talk numbers, I mean, I've seen $40 on there. Like, what is going on? Don't know.
That's
but
not profitable.
When you're in high school, I mean, I started in high school into college. Okay, well, I was booking a lot of people, obviously, because my price was less than a meal for somebody going out. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm making hundreds in a day. But that wasn't the reality of it.
No. So the reality is, if you're new and you're listening, what really is quite hard to wrap your head around is there's so many hidden costs and time. Actually, there was one study in 2011 that was for every 1 hour of photo shoot, there was 9 hours of back end work. And I didn't believe it. I was like, that's ridiculous. And we did a study, took like 3 years to do. And actually, it's regardless of the genre, it's like 12 hours to 13 hours of back end work because it's cheap. Yeah, it's for social media, and back end work is not just editing. It's I'm emailing my client, I'm networking, I'm doing my books, I'm billing, I'm getting product if I sell product. There's so much more that goes education. Like, you know, just so much more. And by the way, you're not going to get faster at editing. I have to tell people this. You're not going to get faster at editing because you just get pickier. So don't say it's because you're new. It's not going to change. Those numbers are actually photographers that have been in business for 4+ years. And you just don't know that when you're starting out. You just think, well, why are they charging so much? Or like they're making so much money. Guaranteed you're not seeing family photographer driving around in a Tesla. And even if they are charging $1,000 for a shoot, they're not making a ton of money after the time, after all the expenses. And you really do need to put aside money for future costs and backup cameras, computers that die.
Even more than editing, I feel like the more I grow and the more I improve, obviously my experience with my clients also improves, which takes more time.
Yeah.
Whether it's time, energy, resources, or a mix of all of it, because I'm prepping them before the shoot now. I wasn't doing that back then. I'm actually taking more time. So that's where that price comes.
When you're starting out, try and make what you would make at McDonald's. If you can put it in the calculator and you make $15 an hour, and you'll be surprised at how much that is in terms of a cost of a session. But the one thing that I remember is you also do deserve a pay raise. So say you're making $30,000 when you first start out, 10 years in, maybe you should make more, which is why your prices should be raised.
Yeah. And I also think it's like a good check-in because now I have obviously a group of business owners that I'm friends with that I've collected over the last few years. But prior to that, all of my friends who have been in my life for a very long time, none of them were business owners, at least when I started. Maybe now they're finally starting to chase after what they were looking at their whole life and didn't think they could do. But looking at what they make as their salary, and sometimes in the past years, realizing I'm not even clearing that, a wake-up call because, they get to turn their emails off after 5:00. That's fun. They're not working on the weekends. So I feel like it comes to a point where it's either take it seriously and charge enough and do yourself that justice, or go get a job that's way less stressful.
Or just go get a 9-to-5 job or something that is regular income. Because it's very stressful. It's seasonal. Not saying that it isn't worth it, but I think it is worth it. We'll get into this in a little bit, but I love the fact that you say you've collected business owners. That's funny. I'm going to say Stefanie and Nick are going to move, and you're going to move to Austin, Texas, right? Let's give you Austin, Texas. Do you want Austin, Texas or LA? Where do you want to move to?
Ooh, Hawaii.
Okay, so Stefanie's moving to Hawaii in 3 months. What's the first thing that you do for your business?
SEO all the way, which is hilarious because I'm slacking. Not even going to pretend that I'm taking that very seriously right now, but SEO 100% all of the way. And then if I was able to, I would absolutely be probably flying out there once a month and shooting because I would want stuff to post with that SEO. I wouldn't want to just be throwing out blog posts of a field in New York and trying to get people on the beach in Hawaii. So that would definitely be my plan. I've actually thought about it because
Hawaii.
Well, because, with the business, if we ever did want to leave, I don't want to lose what I have, right. And obviously I can take my clients that I would love and miss so dearly when I leave, but I would want to be able to have to meet new versions of them wherever I went. So definitely the SEO, definitely that. And then once I got there, it would really be community events, 100%. And not working for free at community events, I'll be clear. It's more, there's a time and place, but it would absolutely be more like me putting myself out there. Even if I'm feeling introverted that month when we get there or whatever it is, making sure that I'm going out to whatever is going on and meeting people, which is also for my own personal preference. It's not just calculated for the business, but if I meet a cool person and they need family photos, I want to be the one that they're going to think of.
Right. So that's interesting. So SEO, going out there, sort of scouting shoots, getting some images, and then community events of meeting people. So on that note, what's your favorite form of marketing? I know it's not SEO at the moment.
No, it's not. Obviously, social media. I have a love and hate relationship with social media. I'm not a fully, obviously love, but with this question I am, because I just feel like it's the easiest way to get yourself in front of so many people. And there's no rules, especially now. There's no rules. When I was doing social media accounts for other companies, there were very much rules. Now there is no rules. The more personality you put in, the more off the cusp of the typical rules following that a company would follow, the more you're going to stand out. But again, I've always had that as my background, but social media is having its moment right now and I'm totally here for it. I will post all the reels all day.
And do you find that you get business from the reels, or is it just fun for you?
I do, but you have to, like with everything, you have to have a strategy. Just like with people who share on Facebook and post like that, if you're just putting your stuff up there, nothing is going to happen. You need to be targeting it to somebody. For me, it's like the reels can go viral, of course, which is fun for your account. For me, having a social media background, that was cool, proving that the idea that I had worked. But aside from that, you got to dial it back and be careful. Is your content being put out to photographers, but you don't offer coaching? Because why is that what you're posting then? You know what I mean? So I have to kind of dial myself back. And I'm also in a situation where I don't have children of my own at this point. Forever, my target client has been mothers. How do I channel that? Even though that's not me. So as long as my content is relevant to the local community, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a newborn photographer when I wasn't a mom, and people were like, oh, how can you do it? I just know my client and I love kids. And you can be a wedding photographer and not ever be married. Sometimes we basically put these boundaries of, I can't be a newborn, I can't be in a mom group. Kind of can, like, what are they going to do? Ask for proof of your child?
Right.
I think you and I have had a lot of conversations about this. Is how do you balance work and life? Do you outsource, or is there a balance? What do you say?
It's funny because, so because we are so close, a lot of what's going on in my life. And up until the last 2-ish years, what is that? You just have to work. Like what? Like there's nothing else to life. Because when you're building your business, that is what it feels like. It's like do or die with your time and energy. But finally, I've gotten to this point where if I am not feeling like my cup is full, how am I going to fill their cup when they show up? Because I was realizing in busy season, which is like a whole nother animal, that I was becoming a person I didn't want to become. I got to go to the studio instead of waking up with gratitude that I get to photograph 10 families today that chose me.
Yeah.
Right now, I've been trying to look, I need to get a little bit better. But if I get an inquiry and let's say my month is already pretty full on the calendar, or let's say I know there's a barbecue that day that my friends invited me to, and they're well used to me having to say no or maybe. If I have a physical reaction of, they want June 30th and that's blah, 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 don't take it.
Right. Yeah.
Don't take what has really come into play in the last like 4 or 5 years with my pricing being where it's supposed to be. I can do that and still not feel it at the end of the month. And I think that that's the big part. Aside from that, I am big on outsourcing, but I'm also big on having my hands and really control everything that's going on. At least that's going to affect the client. So accounting from day one, not my thing. When I tell other business owners this, because it's typically just me aside from a few associates that I have, but full time, it's really, I am one person that's running this business at the core. And when I tell them that I have a bookkeeper, they're like, that's bougie. And I don't do math. Okay. I was in Kumon for years. And when I had my initial meeting with my accountant, of course, because you're trying to keep your expenses at a place where you don't have to continually raise your prices, I'm like, I'll take the lowest package, which is basically just her filing the taxes. And after a week of trying to do that spreadsheet, take all my money. I'm not doing this. So I don't want to be an accountant. And not having to do that's like a part-time job that you're taking off your chest. I outsource my accounting, always have from day one. And I just started outsourcing my culling, which I'm still, like I said, control issues. I am still checking every single one, but I'm hoping that in the next 6 months we'll be in a rhythm that I don't need to be doing that.
You will. Because I think with culling for me, and it's funny because there's all this AI, and I ended up culling somebody else's shoot because they were sick, and I was like, this is easy. Yeah. It's so much easier to do somebody else's.
I think it's better when you're not emotionally attached.
Yeah. And you're like, oh. And so I've outsourced culling for the longest time, and I spot check. But now she's better at it than me because my eyes are tired from zooming in. I'm really picky about the focus on the eyes, and I let somebody else's eyes get tired.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My worry with it was, what if I'm there with the client and It's not technically a photo that's something that's going to get framed, but I know that there's a story behind it. I don't know, some weird moment that we got in an event where someone would see it and they'd be like, that's not Stefanie's best work. And they would cut it from the mix. And I'm like, no, mom knew that happened. Like that needs to be there. But I just write notes. I'll just literally be like, this weird thing happened at the reception. This is what it looked like. Like, don't exit, even though the lighting might not be perfect.
But also you could get it back and you can be like, oh, I remember that one shot. Like I've done that before where it's like, I remember that kid sticking his tongue out. Like she didn't pick it, but then I'll just go back and grab it.
You figure it out. It out.
It's fun. Speaking of clients, like, do you have any red flags that when you get an inquiry, your spidey sense goes off and you're like, this is not going to be my ideal client?
This is probably not going to be what people are thinking, but I feel like if someone is not hearing me, like reading what I'm writing, and I know that sounds so bare minimum, but I can't tell you how many people will email me. I mean, it happened yesterday. You know, they pick their package, they pick their date. I'm like, okay, next step is payment. This is what I offer. What would you like? Because I'm going to put it in the system accordingly and send it over to you. The next email, yay, can't wait. What's next? I just, and like everybody has their day, but if it happens several times saying, these are the packages I offer, and okay, but we want this. And I'm like, okay, but these are the packages that I offer, because I know what you need, not because I'm trying to put you into a box that you don't want to go into. It's just because I've been doing this for 13 years and I know that 5-minute newborn session is just not going to work. So those are 90 minutes. And if that's not what you want, please go have a bad experience with somebody else, because I am not going to do that to you or myself. I guess it kind of comes down to boundaries a little bit, but even less than that. It's more just at this point in the game, I know what works. I know what doesn't work. If you're not with that.
Yeah.
If someone is not already speaking the same language as you before you even have their money, what do you think is going to happen after you've taken their money and you've taken their photos? Because now they can really sit down and be like, this didn't work the way I wanted it to. So it's like,
yeah. And I think it's not just say you're desperate for money. A bad client like that is months of stress.
It costs you so much more.
Months of stress. Dealing with them, the negative energy that's surrounding your business, you're not motivated to do any marketing. It wastes money, a lot more money than what they're paying you. So like the quicker that you can pick up on the red flags, and they might be different, right, for you than somebody else.
Oh, absolutely. I think it goes back to what you need as a person. And I think you need to remind yourself that more often. Mm-hmm. I know I do. I am a person who is choosing to offer these services. It's also got to work for me. And I don't, and years ago, that would have never came out of my mouth. That would have never even crossed my mind. So I'm sure people are going to be watching this and being like, but I want to be functioning and like giving them my service at my best self. I don't want to be bogged down by how they made me feel through email for, weeks.
Yeah. If someone's like, please call me, or I want to schedule a call, I will hide under a desk. I don't want to talk on the phone. That's not how I do business. I can send you an email that has all the details that you will ever need, because it's templated in 1 minute. I don't need to spend 30 minutes on the phone with you where you try and badger me with questions that could have been answered in an email. Whereas other photographers are great on the phone. Like I have a friend and she actually mandates to get on the phone.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I actually had 3 clients in the last 2 weeks who wanted to meet in person to go over things. And I remember maybe 7 years ago, that was a big thing that I was doing, because I was doing a lot of weddings at the time, and they all want to meet for coffee. And
which is fair. Like I think weddings, you do
I
meet.
Didn't like it though. And it wasn't that I didn't like meeting them. It was almost like I felt the need to tell myself. Not that I can't, and not that I won't, but I wanted to be more organic. So in the past, I would have been, they can only meet on a Friday at 6:00. Sorry, husband, can't have dinner with you. I'm going to go meet with this client. And then to find out that they're not even going to book after. And I'll never see them again. And it just seemed like such a waste of time that now this is not what I'm offering at this time. But I have friends who do that, and this is them. I like your work. I'm like, then let's talk over email. We can hop on a quick phone call like that.
Yeah.
That's what I can give you.
Yeah. Or like, an engagement shoot where you can tell the world. So you're still getting paid for your time. Because some people go to 10 different photographers to find their photographer,
Right,
which is
and
fine for them.
And we work on weekends, so it's like, it's hard.
Yeah. It is hard. So tell me, you've been doing this like 13 years. You got to have some funny client stories or something that you're like, this was odd. You've got to have a few that you can mention on air.
Yeah. I was just saying, a lot of the ones that come to mind, you've probably already know. Can't talk about those. But one good one that comes to mind that threw me off in the beginning, to the point of the red flag thing. In the beginning of your career, I feel like it's everything could be a red. You're like looking for the red flags, where this story could have seemed like a red flag at first, but sometimes you got to give it like a minute and just see if it really is a red flag or not. I had a client a few years ago who called me. It's probably 6 years ago at this point. And the first thing she said was she introduced herself, and she's probably going to listen to this because she's one of my biggest supporters. But she was like, "You don't know me, but I know you." And I was like, "Jane, I want to hide under the desk. I want to hang up the phone." I'm like, "What is going on?" And she's, I've been following all of your pages for years and years and years. And I'm so proud of all you've accomplished.
Aww.
I'm like,
are they related to me?
Don't want to like turn away, but you're also like, should I? And she just starts ramming off a bunch of names of clients that are actually some of my favorite clients that I enjoy working with. She's like, "I referred all of these people to you." And okay, I'm just letting her talk. I've never had anything to photograph in my life, which we've realized is not true. And I've trained her better now. But my kid is graduating high school and I have this whole vision, and you were the only person I could picture pulling it off. Okay. I'm like, well, I'd be happy to send you over the pricing menu. She's like, "I don't even want to see it. Just book me the typical, high school senior experience that you offer." Okay. I still did send it over. And obviously for transparency, I'm like, "But this is what I would suggest, blah, blah, blah." So had I been, "Excuse me, what?" and hung up, I would have missed out on not only one of the best clients that I have, but also a person in my life. She's not just a client. She still is a client. Like, there are boundaries, but I see her as a, family member now.
Yeah.
And her children have grown up and graduated. And actually one of her sons works for our photo booth part of our company.
Oh, that's amazing.
I just can't imagine that family not being in my life. But it also kind of teaches you that, I think, to the point of social media and stuff like that, people are watching you. Even if they're not booking you, they're watching you. And I think especially when your price is where it's supposed to be, and when you finally start giving yourself your worth, where I feel like I'm finally starting to step into, it takes longer to let it marinate.
Yeah.
They need to feel like they know you. They need to see the consistency in your work and your experience and your reviews. And it might take 5 of their friends to recommend you for them to finally actually book. You know what I mean? So I don't think that was really the case with her. I think it was more that, which is something I work with a lot of my clients on, that since there was no major milestone going on in her life, she didn't think that she could hire me. Now we do yearly, and then we also do any sort of graduation kind of thing that's going on with her children. But
I think that that's a really good story, because you could be like, okay, she's expecting a discount and she's not,
I had no idea.
Yeah.
My husband, I actually had her on speaker, and my husband was standing near me and he was like, "What?" But she's got that forward energy, but in such a great way,
Yeah. Yeah.
that you meet her and you'll never forget her. And she's one of those people. But yeah, I think kind of giving yourself a beat to figure out if something is a red flag before being like, red flag, not my client,
But you really made me think of some things, though, like, just because they might not be your client, they might be your best referrer, right?
Oh, 100%.
And you have no idea how to.
People all the time who are, "I'm at this function or Sweet 16 and I'm raving about you. I know the pricing was too much for me, but I sent it over to them. They're going to book." Eventually, it almost also, that referrer kind of is like, okay, now I'm really missing out. And then that's when I have the conversation of, save for it. It doesn't have to be something that you think of, on Monday and you book on Friday.
Yeah.
You want to work with me or whoever it is, and it's not just photography, the car you want to buy, the iPhone, like all of that kind of stuff. Marinate, and I do have clients who, they know their kid's graduating in 2 years, putting $100, $50 aside and just keeping it there, for something you do with vacations. You do that with everything in life. And invest in, once you see photography as an investment, or at least the person you want to work with as an investment, you get that same mentality of kind of like just putting it away.
It's funny. I have a few people that in my area that refer. They don't have kids, don't have newborns. Yeah, they maybe need a headshot, but not really, because they don't work. But they just refer you. And you don't really know until like the 4th person. And it's like, "Oh, so-and-so referred." I'm like, wow, they referred me. I know them because I've seen their name in groups or whatever. So I think what's interesting about that is you just don't know who's going to be your best referrer. I have no idea who it could
You have
be.
no idea. Referrals are literally my favorite thing ever. Not just because, you're getting a client, but I feel like they've already kind of gone through a little bit of like selection process of them. Like, this person who's especially like the one I'm referring to and the one that you're probably thinking of, they just hit it every single time.
Yeah.
It's like they send me the coolest people that I just absolutely love working with. I have a makeup artist that has a studio down the street from me, and every single time she refers a client to me. I had one yesterday. She walked in, oh, Denise sent me. I love you already. Because they just know you and they're like, oh, you would vibe with her. You guys would just get along. She's what you need.
These other business owners end up being like really good friends. And they're
100%.
not going to send you a psychopath.
100%. I'll be honest. I've got a little list of my own at this point.
Would you send them to Denise?
I don't share the list with anyone because I don't mean to like shame anyone. It's more so for me because I started my business on such a base of like people pleasing. No, this person has done this to you 4 times and you've kindly asked them to do it. So let me just like put a little note here just so that next year when they do it again, I don't feel bad saying they can't do it again.
Right.
But yeah, if someone's on that list, I will not be referring them to people that I like. And, I'm not saying that sometimes they're just not my people. It's not that there's anything wrong with that person. I'd be doing both of us a disservice by booking them.
Yeah.
I do have a fuller list of people that I would refer them to that are more acquaintances that I don't really know what their feeling is. And some of them love them. They're like, oh my God, they were the best person ever. So we're all people.
I do that all the time. Like if there's a newborn shoot or a cake smash that somebody wants a Mario Kart set. Yeah. I mean, I do more 1-year portraits than I do the sets because the kids just knock them over and I just don't have the time for it. I'm just not patient. Even a balloon. But I refer people to them. Even if I've done the newborn shoot and I've done family shoots, I refer out. Even if you know the person and they might not be the right person for you. I've done this where I know someone's really strict and the shoot that I'd had, they wouldn't tolerate that. Here you go. I will send a note to the other photographer. By the way, you need to do X, Y, Z because this is what happened. But I'm not in a mental headspace to cope with 17 children that are running around. And they are like, yep, bring it.
It's really healthy because when you're first starting out, you take anything and everything. I hope not everybody does that, but that's what I did. And then you realize what doesn't work for you. And like, it's just healthier to send it. And it's for everyone's own good.
Yeah.
Not just a selfish, way.
But you might have to try it. I absolutely love doing twin sessions when I'm a twin. I just absolutely love them. They send me them, but like they've tried it. I mean, I tried weddings once. Yeah. I can't do that. Yeah. Sorry. And I don't know why people still inquire for weddings on my site.
It is kind of weird that people do that. You have no wedding photos on your feed. But I think that also speaks to how well, I mean, more so on social media, but like that veil that comes down and they get to know you as a person. And, oh, I want her at my wedding, Right. So it's still cool, but.
Well, I'm not cool on social media, just so you know.
You come and go. You come and go.
I'm on this freeze at the moment. I get found on Google. That's my jam.
Honestly, it's probably more consistent, to be honest with you.
I'll work on your SEO. You can do it with social media.
Oh my God, trade. We should trade. I don't know if I want to be at your studio every week being like, Jane, say this.
No, we could do it via Zoom.
Yeah. We would literally get nothing done. But my SEO would be perfect. So it worked.
I'd outsource that.
Yeah. I know. I do. And like, that's the struggle, though. Once you start to find it, like my priority really lately has just been finding a balance, like for myself as a person, as Stefanie. But now that I'm almost done with that era and ready to step into another one, the get my shit together era, which the SEO, the website, it's horrendous. Don't look at it, please.
No, don't look at mine either.
Like, I texted you the other day, I think. I just realized that all the pictures on my website are 4 years old. But I think it's important to kind of note that because even though you and I seem to have figured out the pricing and the marketing and the clients and we haven't figured everything out. We can't do everything at the same. Like I know what I should be doing. I'd rather sleep a little bit.
I think I've changed my website so many times over the years and hosting. I was just, I'm like, I give up. As long as I get found on Google, I'm fine. It's funny because you say that about your images being 4 years old. I actually prefer to put, I'll say, my B images on my website. So then when my clients get much better images,
Yeah.
they're like, wow, she did this. Because I'm not going to put like the most difficult pose on the website that only 10% of a baby can do.
Managing
It puts pressure on me. I'm like, 100%. You bought the easy poses. That's on my website. Right? You know,
I think it's also showing like consistency in your work too.
Right. Yeah. Like, and it's just a little bit of surprise and under promise and over deliver. I like to do that because then people are like, oh, wow.
You're like just putting blurry photos on your website so that when they see it, they're like, wow, she's really...
Oh, no, blurring's in. Actually, I'm just really justifying not updating my website.
I think we should unpack that.
No. Because I'll unpack that for you too. All right. So as we wrap up, tell our listeners where they can not find your website and your social media. If you want to just give your social media so people can follow along.
That's fine. That's fine. My website's www.stefaniemurphymedia.com, and it's Stephanie with an F, not a PH. That's the most important thing. And then most of my social media, including Instagram and TikTok, is at Stefanie Murphy. Super easy to remember and lots of people everywhere. So you can find me very quickly. But yeah, no, that's fine. You can look at my website. Just know that I can do better.
Well, I can do better on social. You can't do everything right. And as long as you're getting business, there's so much in marketing. You could be like, I'm only doing events. I have friends that don't really even have a website and get business.
Yeah, I feel like you need a website to land on, though.
Agreed. I mean, they are like 70 years old, but like he's still getting business.
So they never had one. That's why start now, honestly.
He did say, can you get my images on the interweb? Sure.
What?
I mean, this is a while ago, like 10 years ago. My clients are asking for digitals. How do I send them digitals? It was cute. He was cute. I do refer him to I was very impressed with him. So he's not 70, he's maybe 65. He's still of the older generation. And his workflow, ideal workflow for a mini session. He does these charity mini sessions. He basically calls them sittings, does them for like 10, 15 minutes. He's very quick and does light editing. But I was like, man, you do not have any post-processing. But I think it's because this comes from film days.
Yeah. And then also I feel like he's had way longer to figure that out.
He has taken photographs of our family. He's very good friends with my in-laws, and he does the 1980s posing. But,
perfect.
I'm like, no, I do not want to put my arm on my husband and look at him softly. He's like, look at the camera. I'm like, I don't want to look at the camera. Look at the camera and smile. Face on. He's great though. I mean, he's still busy. He's still popular. So
there's a photographer for everyone. I swear, there's literally a photographer for everyone.
All right. Thank you, Stefanie. I really appreciate you coming on, and you've given so many great tips that will help our audience.
Thank you.